Hi, and welcome to a sports edition of Good Morning Santa Paula. I am Dan Diaz, the sports editor of the Santa Paula Times, and it has been 1 year since COVID-19 hit our community. In fact, it's been a year this week that all of our sports programs shut down. I remember thinking that, well, this is pretty bad. It's going to last probably 90 days minimum, and then 90 days comes and goes, and it's like, oh, this is going to go to the summer, maybe the fall. And the fall came, and the CIF was trying to get the schedule going for a whole year, and they said, "Well, we can condense 10 months into 5 months. Let's try starting in December." Well, December came, January came, and here we are. Today is Wednesday, March 17th, St. Patty's Day, and we are just trying to get into some sort of rhythm and momentum with sports again. We are back on the track. We're slowly grinding it out. We're lucky to have Mr. Dan Guzman, the Santa Paula High School Athletic Director and President of the Citrus Coast League, with us today to discuss all these various issues. Dan Guzman, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Dan Diaz, Mr. Bob Allen, KDTV. Thank you once again for having me and providing this platform and allowing me as athletic director to communicate not only with our student athletes, but also our community, our parents, our supporters. It's a pleasure to be here today. Mr. Diaz, you indicated it's been a long year. You are absolutely correct. But on the positive side is we're still standing and we're still moving forward and we're still getting past this. So we're going through the bumps and bruises, but we'll get there. And we're excited to be back, as are the student athletes.
Good. With all the parents, student athletes, families, it's kind of like this is a light at the end of the tunnel of a beacon of comfort and hope that things can return again. I know on the flip side of the coin, on the seat that you sit at, that light at the end of the tunnel, it can be some days more like a train coming your way with all the conflicts and the problems and issues. Dealing with scheduling, practices, players, transportation, testing, go down the list. Let's go ahead and start talking about players, student athletes. Not so much them to be in a game, even just practices. What does it take now, currently, for players to get back on the field, back on the court, back on the mat, back in the water?
And that's a great question, Mr. Diaz, and that's what does it take? And I'll give you the condensed version. Obviously, don't want to, this is a short update, but in a nutshell, you indicated that, we see light at the end of the tunnel. You're absolutely right. We're excited. We're moving forward. At the same time, we're not through it yet. So we still got to continue practicing, our distance, the guidelines that what's required, ensuring that we're able to continue moving forward rather than taking a step backwards. So we're going through the transition right now. Things are starting to, there's starting to be more flexibility. We're getting our programs back out to the practice fields and the competition fields. But again, we're still going through it as a town, as a community, and also as a county and as a state. So again, things are getting better. I want to remind everybody out there, continue practicing our etiquette and ensuring that we maintain these numbers and keep them down and keep being safe, keep wearing your mask, keep a 6 feet distance, because that's what it's going to take to get through this, to hopefully we get to a point where we no longer have to do some of the requirements that are required of our coaches and our student athletes, because it's a lot. I'd like to start off by saying that just for us to get to the practice field is a process. Just for our student athletes, not only attending practice, but going through the screening, the COVID screenings, the temperature checks to get to the practice field daily. That's a process. In addition to that, some of our high contact sports, they're required a weekly testing, COVID testing, in order to be able to compete. And again, that is also another process. Again, and part of how we're doing it right now, going through our local resources, through our local channels to assist us in those capacities, is a lot that goes to it. And it's also a lot that goes that is put on our coaches and the student athletes in having to go through this, in addition to getting to their normal traditional 2-hour practices. So there's a lot behind the scenes and just making it to a practice, much less a competition. But so far, everybody's doing the best we can, as much as we can, and ensuring that we're able to make it to those competitions. And so far, thus far, we've been doing everything according to what's required by Ventura County Public Health and the California Department of Public Health as well. So we're excited about that. Again, we're moving in the right direction. As a district, our efforts right now are on bringing on-site testing, COVID testing for our athletes. Again, as mentioned earlier, currently we're using outside channels, Identity Medical Group or Harding Park, to get our athletes tested. And as you know, it's burdensome in that our student athletes have to get out there to get the testing, and we got to schedule appointments, we got to coordinate to get them out there, and then they come to practice, go through the practice COVID screening to get to practice. And again, that's daily, and the testing's weekly. So some of the dry stuff, not the funnest, but again, that's what's required for us to be able to get out there and practice and compete.
You had mentioned, I think we talked a little while ago about the testing. You had said of when an athlete tests positive, he has to come back with a couple of negative tests, but also, was it the family members have to come back and be tested too?
Well, when it comes to a positive test on our side, our communications obviously go directly immediately to our risk manager, our district, who oversees the process. And at that point, they're in direct communication with the county. We get the county involved to monitor and ensure that it doesn't spread. So if there is a positive case on our end, obviously there's a phase of a quarantine that is involved. We shut down that pod. If the teams are mixing or intermingling, then we shut down that program, whoever that person was in contact with. So depending on each case is different, the scenarios are different, but usually if there is a positive, it usually results in at least a 10-day quarantine followed by clearances. And part of that is another more testing thereafter for a negative test. And in some cases, depending on if it's a false negative, there may be requirements that is requires the family to go get tested as well. But again, that's not a process that's overseen by the athletic department. That's more so the district, and above that, Ventura County Public Health that steps in and assists us with those supports.
We're, you're talking about all these athletes and mingling and getting together. We have basically a 10-month schedule of sporting events condensed to 3.5 months. And we have, for the first time, it's like this weekend, football on Friday, a softball game on Saturday, and a soccer game on Friday. Also, that is a fall sport, a winter sport, and a spring sport playing within 2 days of each other. The practices, how have you been arranging practices, especially when you have soccer needing the football field, football players need the football field, and track and field needing the football field? What happens now?
Again, as you know, we usually have 3 seasons. Our athletic seasons are broken up into fall, winter, spring, and on any given season, we average about 6 to 8 programs per season. Where we're at right now with the spring, as you indicated, Mr. Diaz, is we have 16 or 17 programs operating at the same time. And as you can imagine, our facilities, it is constant usage. In addition to that, everybody's got to get screened. So we have a very tight schedule for practices and including games, and also transitions are very tight. We have very limited flexibility to move things or maneuver within our practice facilities. And it's just moving super fast. A lot happening, a lot of action. As you guys know, the scheduling has become a nightmare. By that I mean is that there's a lot of unforeseeable and unavoidable circumstances outside our control that come into play. And we can expect to play today. Well, guess what? Something happened on our opponents, on our visitors' side, where a kid tested positive, or transportation issues, or not enough players. So our schedules are a working document that is day to day, and I know we're accustomed to. We put out schedules before the season, and we're ready to go, and that's kind of what we follow. Where we're at today, with all the changes, again, we were notified just yesterday. Some schools are dropping lower levels, and in some cases even up to varsity levels. So when we expect to play, well, guess what? The schedule now changed. We were supposed to play this team, but they dropped. So on our side, our coaches and our athletic staff, make full efforts to try to fill that void to ensure that our athletes have at least a competition. For example, water polo. We brought back water polo according to what the governor put out, which gave us about 30 days to get a water polo season in play. That required obviously tryouts and get our girls back into practices, preparation for competition. Long story short, Santa Paula was one of the only schools in the Citrus Coast League that was able to do it. So that resulted in us bringing back our water polo program. However, we had no opponents to play against because they couldn't get teams. So what we did is our coaches scrambled and tried to fill our voids with outside other teams outside of our league. So you'll saw we played Ventura, we played Foothill Tech, and a couple of other teams just to kind of get our seniors, especially our seniors, some action. We tried to do this for them. So that was kind of our motivation on this end, to bring back some of these sports with very short deadlines. And thus far, we've been successful. Water polo, we were the only team in our league that was able to do that. But we also brought back volleyball. We're one of 4 teams left with the volleyball program. And as you know, indoors are off limits. So our volleyball has transitioned to an outdoor volleyball team in which we're playing on the baseball field at the same time that baseball's trying to run practices. So a lot of let's just say it's been a hectic transition and just trying to coordinate and accommodate the 17 programs operating at the same time. So it's been fun, worth it. Again, we do it for our athletes, especially our seniors. Whatever we got to do, let's make it happen. So
you talked about testing. How often like I say, if there's a football game on Friday, when do the players get tested to see if they have COVID?
So again, it's required weekly testing. It's required 48 hours leading into the game. So we started our testing on Tuesday, and we give ourselves another day buffer of Wednesday to ensure that if little Johnny couldn't make it on Tuesday, he has Wednesday, so that we get results by Thursday, no later than Friday, in preparation for the game. So there's a lot of strategical planning when it comes to testing. Some of our teams, for example, soccer, if they play on Tuesday, obviously we can't test on Monday because they play on Tuesday. It's too short of a notice. And again, we're talking rapid test. So what they got to do is we got to coordinate to where they test the Friday before in preparation for Tuesday's game, and we got to coordinate our tests to ensure that we're within at least 1 week of their competitions. So
and you said it's a weekly testing that goes on?
Weekly testing, testing minimum. So
okay.
Again, it's a process. And again, for the athletes out there, you guys are doing a heck of a job thus far of what we're requiring of you guys, what you got to do, not only just to get the testing, but to get to practice. And again, hopefully things change quickly to where we're able to eliminate some of these barriers. But in the meantime, keep up the good work. And that's just kind of if we want to play, this is what has to happen.
Have you had any problems with like coaches saying, you know what, I don't feel comfortable, I don't want to coach?
Luckily for us, knock on wood, our coaches have probably been the all-stars in all this, in that we've put a lot on them. They've always had that option. If they don't feel comfortable, obviously we can't make them. We can't put them in a situation where they don't want to be. And our coaches have been champs through and through. They've done everything we've asked, no hesitations, no questions. And above all, I want to thank our coaches, our staff of 65 plus coaches for their commitment, not just to Santa Paula High School athletics, but to our student athletes. Again, without the coaches, there is no program. And again, some of them, like I said, they've been there to assist, help, and no questions asked. They're about it, and they care for our athletes. So I want to thank them also for everything they do.
How about the officials on that same coin? Have you had issues with officials saying, you know what, some of the officials are a little elderly and can feel, a little endangered, I would imagine. Have some backed out or said no?
Absolutely, Mr. Diaz. Some officials have communicated to their assigners that they are stepping away. They didn't feel comfortable for whatever reason. They didn't want to participate, and that's fine. So from the officials, again, when we're talking about flexibility and having to move games for all these external factors, officiating is one of the factors that also comes into play. if we're going to move the game from this date to this date, are we able to get officials? Is that doable? So if you can imagine any change, you got to check with number one, not only officials, but also transportation. You know, when you have 17 programs in operation at the same time that all have individual needs, it's a ripple effect with any type of schedule change, which is why when I said the schedule, we're kind of on a week to week trying to get through the week and ensure that everything's secured and organized and coordinated. There's just a lot. Those are two external factors, Mr. Diaz, that I'm talking about that are beyond our control. Whether there's officials, whether there's transportation, whether the other team is going to be able to make it. Hopefully nobody on their end contracted the COVID. So again, these are all external things that, again, from day to day, things can shut down as quick as we try to start them up.
You had talked about transportation right now. What basically the issues? You know, I imagine there could be some nightmares with transporting all these athletes, or has some companies also backed out and not wanting to transport the athletes?
Yeah, in general, transportation in our county, I mean, there's a handful of companies that do outside transportation, which is what we use. We use outside transportation, and you can count the companies that are out there. They're limited, to say the least. And in addition to that, during the spring, most schools operate 6 or 7 programs at one time. With us operating 17 programs at one time, now multiply it times all the other schools that are also operating 16, 17, 18 programs at one time. They're all going to the same well to try to get transportation. So for us, we got good working relationships as we have been the last couple of years with our companies. And, you know, for us, they make us a priority. But to some extent, there probably will be some issues, Mr. Diaz, that come up about transportation, in which we're requiring 6 buses on any given day, 50 in the specific buses, 55 passenger buses, to accommodate our needs, in that we need to separate students while transporting them on the bus. So, you know, obviously the smaller buses or the mid-sized buses won't work. We need specific full-size buses. So all these things come into play, and they do affect our transportation schedule. Like I said, 17 programs moving and trying to get them to and from it is a challenge within itself. And also part of that, Mr. Diaz, is we will also, parents out there, we have transportation, we have buses, but parent support in that area will also be beneficial in ensuring that we're able to get there. Obviously, 2 big buses. Right now, we're looking at 1/3 capacity on a 55 passenger bus. We're looking anywhere between 15 to 18, 19 on one bus. Again, if you do the head count on how many student athletes we have on a team, in many cases we're taking 2 buses, and even then, that's not enough, right? We need the parents out there to assist and support if they can, for them to drive their own child to the game if doable. So we'll be reaching out. Our coaches are reaching out to parents to kind of assist in those capacities if doable. That would help us out.
You know, so many issues you're dealing with on a daily basis. One thing we haven't touched on also is you're not allowing any fans in the stands this whole year. Am I correct?
Yes and no. We are allowing spectators. Again, we're following the California Department of Public Health. California Department of Public Health permits spectators in a limited role. The language on there, if I'm not mistaken, is within the immediate household and for supervisory roles. So as a league, we've had multiple meetings. Again, we want to make sure that what happened at Nordoff or at Carpinteria, wherever we travel, we have a consistent game plan. And as a league, this is in conjunction with meetings with the principals. That what's been discussed thus far is that allowing each athlete 2 spectators from their immediate household, family, for supervisory duties at the games. And it'll be all on a list, on a pass. In terms of it being open to the public, as we're accustomed to, as we're used to, unfortunately, we're not there yet as of today. But our hope is that, again, things change and we open it up and we invite everybody back. In the meantime, as of today's date, the 17th, we're looking at student athletes will be permitted to, and everything will be documented and IDs checked and screened at the gates to allow that for our spectators. Another thing that we've been working on, Mr. Diaz, as you know, We've been partnered up with KDTV, Mr. Bob Allen. He's done a tremendous job in assisting our district and formulating our student broadcast team. We've been working on this for years, but as of the last several months, it's picked up a lot of speed. And by that, I mean, we've formulated a team of student broadcast interns from outside to assist with broadcasting Santa Paula High School athletic competitions. It is our focus to broadcast as much as we can. Will we broadcast 100% of our games? Probably not. However, our goal is to get as much as we can to bring the action to our community, to our stakeholders, and to our supporters. And again, games will be viewed on kdtv.net. All of our games will be, both of our games will be on there for the community to watch live. So we're excited about that. Part of that group, they've also they've installed we've gotten some cameras installed in McMahon Gym for live action. They're ready to go, and our next focus is Jones Field, which is to take place within the next 30 days of camera installs. Regardless if the cameras are installed, by the time we hit our games, we will still have the portable setups to bring the action to the community. And again, that's a big thanks to a big part, Mr. Bob Allen, Mr. Ron Merson, their endless efforts on making this happen and partnering up our district with our city to get this done for you guys. Mr. Bob Allen's worked closely with our district, and we've been live streaming games for the last couple of years in a smaller capacity. And for those of you that have tuned in, but where we're headed is we're looking to expand this and get it into our educational part and bring it to not only our district, but other districts. So a lot of momentum being done, a lot of work being done behind the scenes, again, to coordinate, organize, and bring the action to our parents and you guys at home. So we're excited about that.
Well, that's pretty much that you know, a silver lining on this dark COVID cloud that has hung over our heads for the last year. That's for sure. There is some positive news to come out of it. One last thing, I know that this like football, water polo, volleyball, I think there are no going to be league champions. There's no CIF, what have you. Is there going to be, like for other programs, they're going to be starting soon, like the softball program or what have you? Are they going to go through CIF, or is there no CIF for the whole year?
Yeah, no, for those sports that you indicated, cross country, the fall sports, which includes cross country, football, water polo, volleyball, you are correct. There will be no CIF competitions. It's just action for our seniors, trying to bring them back because, again, they're a fall sport, and at this point, we're into the spring. But for our spring sports, all CIF competitions and playoffs, everything is still on the table. CIF has not postponed any of that stuff. In fact, for the sport of swimming, they released the standards yesterday, which is the times that are used for students to qualify for playoffs. So as of right now, there's a positive sign that we're moving forward with playoffs. Like I said, pending that everything keeps going in the direction that it's been going, it's looking good. Again, don't want to jump too far out because a lot of things, again, things turn very quick. And where we're at today, the 17th, Mr. Diaz, yes, CIF playoffs are still on the table for all 17 or spring sports that we're discussing.
Okay, good. Pretty much we've covered a lot of things so far. That's about all I think we can get into this segment. Anything else you'd like to say as far as to the community, to the public?
Yeah, community, once again, guys, it's been a year, a little over a year now to be exact. And like I said early on when we started, we're still standing. We've been going with the punches, taking the punches, and we're still here. A big part of that, I want to thank the parents out there for doing your part, getting our student athletes cleared, physicals, getting them to practice earlier than normal when practice starts, picking them up on time, and ensuring that our student athletes are safe and are following the guidelines also at home. Again, when we communicate with the athletes, we've always said, get ready, stay ready, and make sure they're practicing all the guidelines, not just because we're at practice, but also because that's what we need to do to ensure that we continue moving forward with the opportunity to get back to the practice field and the game field. So to everybody out there watching, guys, we miss everybody. We're taking steps in the right direction to bring back the normalcy of what we're accustomed to, the rivalries, the homecomings, the parades, the games, the playoffs. We're getting there. We're taking positive steps. And again, it's up to everybody here. We're excited. Thank you for your continued support. And again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to contact me. Just want to put it out there. I've been a little slow on the responses. As you know, with 17 sports comes 17 types of individual needs for 17 different programs. So my email, I'm operating 2 emails, and I'm probably at about 150 emails on each side. So I will get back to everybody. It's just moving a little slower. So hang in there. Bear with me, guys. I'm excited to be back, Mr. Diaz. Thank you for this platform and for the opportunity. Mr. Bob Allen, you guys, KDTV, appreciate you guys. And again, thanks for allowing me to do this.
Well, thank you for joining the program. Thank you all for listening also. Let's cross our fingers, stay safe, and keep the faith, everybody. Bye for now.
Take care, everybody.